So hello, my name is Monica DK. I'm one of the newest Orange Keys for fall 2020. Today we are here with Professor Mike Yawn. Dr. Yawn, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, well, you did a fine job, Monica. I teach political science and I'm the director for the LEAP Center.
Yes. So let's jump into the questions already. So what initially sparked your interest in political science in the law field?
You know, it's not anything that sparked my interest. It was just something growing up. I was interested in it. And then law, it was more of a byproduct. I was teaching here in political science for many years, and people kept coming to me asking me questions like, how do I get into law school? And for 3 or 4 years, I said, I don't know. And then I thought, nobody else is answering these questions. And I'm not either. So I need to do something about that. So I spent some years educating myself on how to get into law school and became the university's pre-law advisor.
Sounds amazing. And like you mentioned, you are the director of LEAP. So that leads me to my next question. So what exactly is LEAP and what all does it entail?
Well, that's always a difficult question for us to answer. It stands for Law, Engagement, and Politics. And everybody understands the law and politics, but the engagement is what we actually spend the bulk of our time doing. And that can involve art and history and civil rights and journalism, literature, fine arts. So it really encompasses everything. Our goal is to provide unique learning opportunities to students and also to give them cross-disciplinary skills. And then finally, to show the connectedness between things and provide them a kind of cultural learning that I think a lot of students from Rice or UT take for granted, but our SAM students haven't been bequeathed and don't necessarily know to initiate on their own.
Of course. So what exactly do you look for students interested in joining the LEAP program, or maybe they're interested in LEAP ambassadors, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about that as well?
Well, we run a number of programs. We run a LEAP Leads. We run several internship programs. We run LEAP ambassadors, and we run the Pre-Law Society. And occasionally, when COVID is cooperating, we run the moot court. We look for something a little bit different in each of those. But what we're looking for is what a lot of people across campus are looking for. We're looking for students who have the potential to develop all-around skills, have an intellectual curiosity so that they're interested in more than just one thing, and who can at least develop into responsible and professional students.
Of course. And jumping into the next question, something that I've personally been involved in and loved, can you tell us about the Austin internship program? I've had a lot of questions about it. I'm sure students would like to hear more about it.
Sure. This is something that I'm not sure how successful we'll be in recruiting people for next session. The Austin internship occurs when the legislature is in session, and that's every other year. It's in every odd year in the spring. 140-day session. We put students in Austin. We help, we go through a long, as you know, Monica, a long interview process on campus that involves a committee of Sam Houston faculty and staff. And then we take those students to Austin, where they typically interview at more than one place, and we match them with an office that they would be suited for, both personality-wise and political-wise. They then stay for the entire session working for that legislator, and we hope they learn a lot of skills in the process. We do provide scholarships to help them overcome the financial burdens associated with that. But I think it's as much of a cultural experience as it is an occupational experience.
Well, I can say on my behalf, it's definitely a great experience, a big learning experience, and I think it's a great program, and I'm really appreciative that y'all hold that. So as you mentioned, LEAP is over the Pre-Law Society. Can you tell us a bit more about the Pre-Law Society?
Sure. We have about 70 different students in that as of last spring. Our spring semesters are always a little bit less populated than our fall semesters. We don't know how COVID will affect us this fall. We hope that we have as many students as possible. And Chelsea, when is this going out? When will this be up and running?
Oh, Chelsea actually left the office.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at, Monica, I'm looking at your name on the Zoom.
Oh, sorry.
Monica, when will this actually be up and running?
It should be up and running either the next week or the week after. We're doing videos each week.
Well, the dues are due next week, so we'll hope that a lot of students sign up this fall. We don't know how COVID's affecting that process, but what we want to do is educate students as much as possible and provide them with the resources to successfully apply to law school. So there's certain principles we really repeat, but the most important thing we do is we bring professionals, either law school professionals, usually admissions counselors, or practicing attorneys in front of the pre-law society. And that way they can get direct information about how you get into law school and what the practice of law is really like. And let me just say one other thing. I really want to emphasize this. This is true of all of LEAP's programs, but it's especially true of the Pre-Law Society. We have 70 students. We did a count of this last semester. Of the 70, I think I have these numbers right, there were about 20 white students and about 25 African-American students and about 25 Hispanic students. So it is a majority minority program, and it's 80% female. So we are always looking to help the students who, I won't say disadvantaged, because I don't think anybody at SAM is disadvantaged. They're going to college, they're getting a great education, and they have the initiative and motivation to go to college. But I will say historically underrepresented groups are not just well represented in the LEAP programs, but particularly in the Pre-Law Society.
Sounds amazing. I personally always appreciated the diversity of the LEAP program. As you saw, the Austin internship program, there was all females, and I think majority minority.
That was the area they weren't diverse, yes. We are aware of our lack of male.
Yeah, well, okay, jumping into the next question, what would you like to see come out of your LEAP and pre-law students?
Well, what we really hope for is them making informed decisions and doing the best that they can do. And I say that judiciously, because by informed decision, I don't necessarily mean going to law school. We want them to go to law school if that's what's best for them. But many students, once they learn more about the legal profession, once they maybe take an internship in a legal area, they find that law is not for them. And we consider that a success because they've been better matched with their career before they spend $150,000 in debt on law school. And we think that's great because they'll be happier in life. Having said that, starting about 12 years ago, Sam Houston moved into the top 240 law school feeders in the country. There are 2,700 four-year degree granting institutions in the United States. So to be in the top 240, we're actually around 110th, which means we're in the top 4% of students, top 4% of universities at placing students in law school.
Sounds amazing. So, Professor Yawn, what is your favorite part about being the LEAP director?
It's something that's unique to academia, and that you have a lot of discretion over what you do. This is true of a lot of professors, a lot of professorial type positions. You oftentimes get to control, to some degree, what classes you teach, how you teach those classes. And I don't think a lot of professors realize how fortunate we are to have that opportunity. A lot of people go to work each day and they have an assembly line in front of them, and they're like Lucy from I Love Lucy, sticking candy on an assembly line. And we don't have that. We have a new job every day. We have new students every day. Most of the students want to be there. Most of the students are motivated at Sam Houston. They're a unique population. They're first generation. They're grateful for the opportunity of education. And when you put those elements together, you have an unbeatable job.
Final question. For anyone watching right now, anyone who might be interested in pre-law or going to law school or in any of your programs, do you have any advice you'd like to give them?
You know, I think the advice is to find what fits you, fits your personality, fits your drive, fits your schedule. We always aim to provide unique learning opportunities for students. But unique means different things to different people. And so I think getting out there and trying as many things, when you look back on your college career, you probably won't remember the afternoons you spent on the couch in your dorm room or your apartment, but you might remember an Austin internship or a trip across the country. And I recommend just getting out and truly experiencing everything before you make a decision on whether it's right for you.
Of course, great tips, great advice. I personally really appreciate all that you've helped me through educationally and professional-wise. And I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and interview with us today.
Well, Monica, may I add just one other thing?
Sure.
Because I think it's worth illustrating. It's so difficult to explain LEAP because unlike a lot of programs where they just have majors, if you're mass comm, then you're like, oh, we train people to go out into the field of journalism and all of its different manifestations. And people pretty much know what that is. But LEAP tries to do something a little bit different. It's broader, and sometimes it's difficult to convey. But when I say unique learning opportunities, the one that I would like to just harken back to, because I remember it so vividly, we were able to take 4 or 5 students to the president's inauguration in 2009. Now, that may seem unique, but actually we've taken students to the presidential inauguration in 2005, 2009, 2013, and 2017. We hope to take students to the 2021. We sign up these students before they knew who won. So the purpose is to do the process, not to just support the victor. But the 2009 was particularly special because it was the first African American to be inaugurated as president. And what we did is we drove the students across the country. We drove them to Washington, D.C. from Huntsville. It took about 11 days to get there and back. But especially on the way there, we took a civil rights trip. So we went on our path to see the first African American inaugurated. We also stopped where Rosa Parks caught the bus that brought her to immortality. We saw where Martin Luther King walked up to the Capitol steps of Montgomery. We walked to Atlanta. We didn't walk to Atlanta. We drove to Atlanta and saw where Martin Luther King was buried. We also saw some of the negative sites associated with America's path to legal equality. We saw where Jefferson Davis was inaugurated for the Confederacy. And we think that those reminders are just as important to see what we hopefully have learned from. But that was on the path to see, the first African American be inaugurated. And we thought it was important to see that 150 years ago, you had Jefferson Davis being inaugurated as a Confederate president. But in 2009, you had Barack Obama being inaugurated. And then on the way back, we followed Sam Houston's path to Texas. So we saw his birth site in Virginia. We saw where he taught high school in Maryville, Tennessee. We saw where he served as governor of Tennessee. We saw where he was baptized in Stephen F. Austin at Nacogdoches. And then throughout that whole 11-day trip, we also visited art museums, history museums. We visited the Newseum, which is a museum in Washington, D.C. for journalism. And we saw the great monuments on the National Mall. So I think if there's one trip that kind of encapsulate what LEAPS tries to do for students, that would be it. And I'm grateful to be at SAM. I'm grateful to work with great students like yourself. And I'm grateful to have the job that I do.
Awesome. Your dedication and passion to educate students has always impressed me, and I'm sure it impresses many students, and I'm excited for all the students who are going to have the opportunity to work with you and learn with you.
That's what they do during COVID.
Like I said, thank you so much for taking the time to interview with us today. I hope you have an amazing day.
Thanks, Monica. Good to see you.
Thanks. You too.